Like that's such.
Good afternoon and welcome to the Small Committee on the Government Operations Committee meeting of Wednesday, March 11th, 2026. We're a bit late from the floor, but not as bad as, well, not bad, not as lengthy as might have been. I want to look at S-275, the act relating to creation of the Cemetery Vandalism Response Fund. You have on your desks, hopefully, draft 4.1. Oops, that's the wrong bill. Draft 1.2 of the bill. And there are some highlighted changes. Well, yes, plural changes. And while we have time, Diana Vachon is with us on Zoom. We can invite her to.
She's not yet.
Okay. Well, let's go over the changes then. John, would you want to join us, John Gray?
Afternoon, everyone. John Gray, Council. Should be pretty straightforward to walk through. If I could get sharing privileges, please. So I've been requested to make 3 changes to S-275, which is your Cemetery Vandalism Response Fund. The first was to add as a consideration, you may recall, there are considerations that VOCA would undertake when considering whether to extend a grant for vandalism repair. It was requested that I add as a consideration that the vandalism is motivated in some fashion by a person's membership in a particular protected category. So if it's, you can think of this, it's kind of the simplest way to think of it is if it's kind of like a hate crime, this is meant to result in a priority within the grant application process. The second thing I was asked to ensure was a prohibition for cemeteries to pass along that $5 fee to folks who are receiving financial assistance for burials or cremations. So the bill doesn't specify how the $5 contribution is collected that would be used for repair, collected for each burial or cremation, but it's establishing that you could not pass that along to someone who requires financial assistance. And then lastly, to move collections from VOCA to the Division for Historic Preservation. So with that, I'm going to screen share. And the changes are shown in highlights, so it should be simple to tell. The first piece we're going to come to is the definition. On page 1, this is the addition of the term protected category. And what I've done here is, and I can flip to the actual statute itself, but I've just used the same definition that's used for the hate crime statute that I have pulled up here. So as you see in subsection C, as used in this section, protected category includes race, color, religion, national origin, sex, ancestry, age, service in the U.S. Armed Forces or National Guard, disability, sexual orientation, gender identity, and perceived membership in any such group. So it's quite a broad call out of categories. And this is going to be used in that grant application consideration. Mm-hmm. So that's why we have the term here. And I think it's nice to not build in any sort of new definition, just latch onto what already exists. On page 3, I'm sorry, it's all the way to page 4. I am going to scroll up to 3 just to hit the lead-in language, starting in subdivision 2 here. A VOCA representative shall review the qualifying damage within 90 days after receipt of a complete grant application and make a determination based on the following factors. We've gone through these factors before, including things like the severity of the damage, whether it's part of a wave. The new consideration that's added at the top of page 4, line 3, subdivision E, whether the vandalism appears to be motivated in whole or in part by a person's actual or perceived membership in a protected category. I did make some discretionary calls on how to do this. So what I would call out is 1, I have this, whether it appears to be motivated. I don't know how much information is going to be readily available to VOCA to make this determination. And I didn't want to require some heavy duty investigation. If they've received, for instance, any criminal documents, which would be something that would be required to be supplied if there were legal documents accompanying it, that could indicate whether it's motivated. But my guess is that the sort of thing you're trying to get at should be facially obvious, meaning that the defacement itself indicates that it's targeted toward a particular group. And so that would be picked up to this, whether the vandalism appears to be motivated. And I did want to also call it the in whole or in part. I think it's okay even if you don't use this, but sometimes people say, does that mean it needs to be exclusively motivated by someone's membership in a protected category. It does not, as long as any element of the defensive vandalism comes from the protected category. And the last piece that I made a discretionary call on is imagine that the vandalism occurs to a particular deceased's grave, but they themselves are not part of the protected category that's targeted by the vandalism. I would assume you would still want to pick that up, even though it's not targeted at them. It could be just sort of a general, right? Like, so that's why
people. I mean,
right. So anyone entering the cemetery. So the generic call out here is whether the vandalism appears to be motivated by a person's, not necessarily the person.
right.
Yeah. Nice.
Senator Bielanski.
So if I'm going to clarify all of that, I just want to make sure that I understand. If someone just painted obscenities, say lots of F words, on someone's grave who happened to be Jewish, that would not be captured. But if someone painted a swastika on that grave, it would. And if someone painted a swastika on a grave of someone who's not Jewish, that would also be captured.
That is a good way to summarize it. I think I would slightly complicate the first example.
Yeah, I think the first example would be
It
fine.
depends. It depends, because if the reason, and it would be hard to know, right? And that's part of why we have this just appear to be motivated. If it happened to be that the cemetery had lots of non-Jewish deceased persons, and none of those were littered with F words, and then every Jewish person's, right? In that case, you would think that that is on the basis of their protected class. But
Every grave had F
Exactly.
words, and some of them happened to be Jewish.
Exactly.
graves. Okay.
Exactly. That would give no indication that it was on the basis of their membership in the
But if
category.
every grave had a swastika, it would be considered.
But exactly, because then the swastika carries connotations of it's directed
Well,
against them.
Okay, thank you. I just,
Yeah, that's a good question.
Any graffiti on it.
Well, it's only one of the things that would be taken into consideration, so.
Right. In all cases, even if you didn't have this consideration, you're targeting graffiti and vandalism. So all of it is.
but
be argued to be-
limit in funds, this is priority.
Yep, this is one of the things that would be considered. But I think the way you describe it is a useful set of scenarios to differentiate what is meant to be happening.
Okay, not that I love having that conversation.
No, I mean, I don't even know what words to use when I try to speak abstractly to them. Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Yep. Okay. So that is the first piece. The other should be simpler to talk about. On page 5, section 3 is your cemetery vandalism response fund. This is where the grants are provided from, and it's funded by a $5 contribution, as you'll see on line 11. So under subsection B, fees and collection, every agency shall contribute $5 to the cemetery vandalism response fund for each burial or cremation it performs. The thing I noted earlier, I just want to hit again here. This doesn't specify, you may recall from when we had the walkthrough of this, it doesn't specify where that $5 comes from, right? It'd be intuitive that it might be passed along to the families that are having a burial cremation. And so the new addition proposed here on lines 14 through 16 is just an outright prohibition. It doesn't take a position on how these agencies are going to collect the fees, but it says in no case can you do it in this way. So an agency shall not charge a fee to cover the cost of the contribution to any person receiving state or federal funding for the burial or cremation. I suppose I do have the question if
Sorry.
if state or federal financial assistance is sufficiently broad, there may be other kinds of financial assistance. I'm not
Yes,
aware of.
Senator Clark.
the other financial system is from the funeral directors fund. The funeral directors at large have a fund
Right.
that they help pay for people who have no money.
Okay.
And that is a fund that is probably used more than state or federal fund.
It's not considered a state. Okay.
I don't think it's it's a organization's fund or a,
Okay. So we want to make sure.
Regional Directors Association.
yeah.
So then, if you guys are comfortable with this sentence, I think I would need to update this to be receiving state, federal, or, financial assistance from the state, the federal government, or this particular fund, which I can find out and call.
Yep.
Why wouldn't we just say that they shall not charge a fee if the person is receiving federal assistance for burial or receiving financial assistance for burial or cremation? Because just because that's the only fund that currently exists doesn't mean there might not be different funds in the future. And the point is that if someone needs help with burial fees, you shouldn't be charging them extra fees.
Right, so I would just cross out state or federal and just leave it.
So I love the simplicity of that. The only hesitation I have and why I did include call outs to state or why I was at all specific is someone trying to make the argument of how broad financial assistance might be. So like they go to their friend and ask for assistance with the burial or cremation. Is that financial assistance from their friend? Maybe it doesn't actually matter because practically the agencies are the ones making this determination. So they can presumably gather from just the generic call out receiving financial assistance that they would only not charge that to someone who is receiving a sort of understood, recognized, governmental or otherwise standard financial assistance. I just didn't want them to be in a position of thinking they need to think through what might constitute financial assistance. And so it's simpler to say state or federal away, but I don't see an issue with that. And I think it's the agency is the one that's likely to make a reasonable determination in the case. So I'm not bothered, but that's why I didn't include specific. Perfect. So I can make those two updates to that section. The last changes relate to who collects the fees themselves. This does not disrupt in any way who administers the fund, who supplies the grants, right? It's still through the Vermont Old Cemetery Association, but this has the actual collection process going to the Division for Historic Preservation. So starting on line 17, every agency that has performed a burial cremation during the preceding calendar year shall submit to the Division for Historic Preservation, which is within ACCD, a check made out to VOCA for the total amount collected during the preceding year. And I did, to avoid confusion, assuming that the checks are still going to VOCA, and this is just the collection mechanism itself, I wanted to make sure that folks didn't mistakenly address their checks to the Division for Historic Preservation if it's truly just that they're the pass-through into the.
Senator Clark.
Has Laura agreed to, has the Division of Historic Preservation agreed to this?
Yes.
Great,
I did.
and they aren't charging an administration fee for
No.
this?
I did some homework.
That was very good of the division and of you. Thank you.
Any questions for John?
One last,
Yeah.
just the same change on page 6.
Yeah.
For the initial fee collection, we're kind of getting backdated fees, Division of for Historic Preservation to do this. And that's the whole of that is the whole set of updates. I got a few things to do.
Yeah.
For you guys.
And I'm hoping that, I haven't seen Diana. What I hoped was that the Municipal Clerks Association would be able to say, go ahead and repeal the section of current statute that collects this fine and replace it with this new stuff. Because that would be important if there were 50 clerks who get, $5 for every time there's a burial, maybe they don't want to lose it. So I don't want to do anything without their blessing. But to answer Senator Clarkson's question, and I struggle with this, I worked all weekend on this actually, because it started with the suggestion that OPR has a statute where they might collect it. And I spoke with OPR and they said, no, there's really no connection between us and a burial situation. Then the Department of Health was suggested as another sort of focal point to send the money to. And I spoke with the chief medical examiner who said, no, we don't have anything to do with that and didn't express any great interest in getting involved with it. So I called Laura Trishman or Trishman? Trishman. And we had a nice talk and she talked with Tom Giffen from VOCA and they both have come to an agreement that as long as it's on an annual basis, she doesn't want to be
Yeah, I
writing
was trying to
checks every
say
week.
monthly or it would be hard.
They will forward checks to her. She'll keep track of it. And then every year she'll send a check for whatever amount it is. the vote. And,
That's great.
so we're very close, but again, I want to make sure that the clerks at the last minute don't throw up a red flag and say, wait a minute, you never asked us how we feel. I mean, we can leave current statute alone, but this then becomes an additional $5 that the Funeral Directors Association would have to collect. So I would prefer it to go the other way, but I guess we're not going to be able to, she was working alone today and she must have been called away. So guess what? Let's another day.
She might. I might ask her to just be in touch when she's ready and then we could always.
Yes.
And I have other amendments that I'll need to make to this anyway,
Okay.
so I would have to come back another
Yeah,
day.
okay. But we only have 2 more, John, so. As you're
Well,
well aware.
Yeah,
Okay. And it is 2:30 and I know you have another date, so we'll let you go.
Nice to see you.
good to see you.
Okay.
Always good to see you, John. And before you leave,
Oh, my.
Harry Carzone's
Okay.
brought over with a very nice note about my decision to retire. Cookies.
Well, those are special cookies. They're not the usual.
Yeah, this is different. Look.
I might have nuts in it
They
because
do?
I love
Yeah.
nuts.
No.
Anyway,
Thank you very
Okay.
much.
thank you, Terry.
So assuming that can happen and we get the clerk's kiss on this, I'll try to move this tomorrow. I'm something to do it today, but John, will it be possible for you to add those amendments tomorrow?
Yep.
Okay.
Thanks, so.
For today.
No, because again,
I mean, Diane might be able to. You might, or you?
It's unlikely today, but
okay.
I can do tomorrow. Yep.
Thanks very much.
See you guys. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Our next item was to walk through the legislative review of reporting requirements. Tucker was ready to go at 2:30, but I gave him a heads up that the floor might get a little extended. So he might be just a few minutes. So at the risk of losing all my cats again,
Go.
let's take a 5-minute break and we'll be back in just 5 minutes or so.
Did you get one?
I just had one a little while ago, not bad.
We're still,
I'm gonna wait a little bit. I'm very
I'm
full
also-
from
thank
my
you.
lunchtime.
Back
order.
there.
I'm just
why does
waiting.
it take so long to go out?
It's like click it.
Oh,
Well, we'd offer the plus of being in person is you get real cookie. If you're online, you just lose.
right.